Welcome to today's webcast. It's on labeling multiple sheets simultaneously with Label Genie. My name, if you guys don't know me, I'm Brian Lewandowski. I'm with CTC Software. I'm the Civil Product Manager here, and I'll be doing the presentation today. So what is labeling like today in Civil 3D and in AutoCAD? It's a pretty time-consuming thing. It's very costly to your budgets, right? A lot of time is spent on this. So much of the labeling requires a point and a click for every label you insert. If you're taking advantage of some AutoCAD fields, populating those attributes, it's a very tedious thing. And every time you're labeling something, you have to pick your style, you have to pick your layer, and so forth. And it's the same kind of stuff over and over. Labeling our sheets, we have AutoCAD annotation, we have Civil 3D annotation to put together all sorts of different varieties of sheets, whether it's just labeling polylines or some blocks or pipe networks or you name it. And so Label Genie is a new tool we're releasing soon, and I want to give you guys a little taste of it today. But what it's about, among many other things, is labeling multiple drawings at the same time and doing this in an automated way across the majority of all the different label types you have there. Now, I'm not going to walk through everything today, all the different features. Some of them we're still building out, in fact, but it works with both AutoCAD and Civil 3D labels. It works with your standards. So you have certain text styles, you have certain line and curve label styles, all of that stuff. It works with that. And so just a little brief overview of how Label Genie works, and then I want to jump into Civil 3D and show you how it works firsthand. So here's the initial interface. You start by choosing drawing sources. Now, it could be just one drawing you're labeling, but we can choose multiple drawings, be it XREFs, additional drawings, and then we have control on what you're labeling. Do you want to just label all of them? Model space, or just the layouts, or maybe selected layouts, and then also control on the viewports within those layouts themselves. You can choose a label type. Might be something as simple as mText. Then you choose anchor objects like attaching mText to feature lines or line and curve labels to feature lines. And then you have data options, right? Now, when it's something like a Civil 3D label, like a surface spot elevation, that's pretty straightforward. It's reading the elevation of the surface or the labels inserted. But what if it's a piece of mText you're inserting onto a bunch of blocks? You might want to read different properties from that block and automatically populate that mText. That's what we can do with this area of the interface here. And there's formatting options, of course. How our sheets look, this is a big part of our branding as different organizations and companies, and our styling. And so all of that stuff is accessible as well. Now, it varies depending on the label type you're choosing. Again, something simple as mText, there's a ton of formatting options because there's not much automation to it, so you have to spell it out. But all of these settings, everything here, you specify them and you trigger it by just running add or update labels. And notice it's called update labels. So Label Genie doesn't just take labels and add them to your objects. When there's changes to your drawings, right, and it's all day, it's not like we just draw something once, model something once, label it, and we're done, right? We've got dozens of iterations. If you chose a particular labeling scenario and then you run this again and you already labeled it, but now you have additional objects or changes to those objects, Label Genie will adapt and refresh your label set to match that criteria. And because there are a lot of properties, you can save this stuff to a template. So one of the points I made earlier is we're always choosing what style, what layer, and all this kind of stuff, right? Every time we label it, and it's the same so many of the times. Well, all of this gets saved into a label template. You're labeling feature lines, what layer are they on, okay? What style are you using to label those? All of that gets saved in a template, and we can pull up these templates at any time to execute on future projects, additional drawings, you name it. So a lot of you use the CIM Project Suite already, and the Data Wizard is a tool in there that's great for QTO and legend creation. Label Genie in some ways is similar to that, but the output isn't Excel spreadsheets and tables. The outputs is labels across all my drawings, right? But it's a similar kind of thing. We specify all these properties, and instead of writing everything to a table or a spreadsheet, we write everything to labels in your actual sheet. So those of you who haven't been using Data Wizard, it's a great tool. Label Genie, in fact, though, is going to be, I think, quite a bit more universal even than Data Wizard. So I'm looking forward to getting it out there in everyone's hands so you guys can start using it. This is something we'll build on and work on even after the first release, of course, because we know you guys are going to get a hold of it and look for additional features or changes, and so we're ready to do that. So let's jump into Civil 3D. I want to give you some samples of how Label Genie works. I did a webcast a few weeks back. It was kind of an introduction to Label Genie. So there's some similarities with what I showed there, what I'm showing here, but I've got a number of new things to show you. But just beware, these are beta builds. We're changing on a daily basis. So there's a lot of little features and bugs we're still working through, but I'm excited to show you guys. And so that's why we're doing this pre-release, to give you a taste of what is coming. So what I've got here is some plan and profile sheets. I've got 3 drawings. I've got multiple layouts in each drawing, okay? A simple road recon where there's a variety of things going on. And I just need to label, let's start with all this hatching here. And in fact, the polylines, the magenta polylines, these represent bituminous areas where they're adding asphalt for driveway reconstructions to tie into the existing driveways, okay? But this could be anything, okay? I've got a roadway project, could be existing survey drawings, it could be anything. We just want to label some polylines, and I want to call out the area of the asphalt to be installed in all these locations. And I've got it all over the place, right? It's across my whole project, across all these layouts. And what would I normally do? I'd put a piece of M text there, I'd insert a field on it, and then I would link it to that object and it would read that. Or I just maybe type the value in the first place, okay? Or maybe you don't even bother doing that because it's so much of a pain, right? How do you get that information into your label in the first place, okay? So this is one of the real straightforward examples, just taking something like M text, which ends up filling in a lot of the gaps in our sheets where Civil 3D annotation does not cut it, or it's just too kind of specific, right? For one, it only works on Civil 3D objects, except for line and curve labels. And 2, you don't have a ton of control on what data is displayed within that. So let's put some M text on all of these driveway polylines, but we're going to do it all at once. And we're going to read the area of those polylines and insert that into the M text all at once. So again, 3 drawings, multiple layouts, multiple sheets at once. I'm going to launch Label Genie. And here's that interface we kind of shown in the PowerPoint. So right off the bat here, I've got current drawing. I could grab XREFs. Now that would be a pretty common scenario, right, for labeling your sheets. You've got your base files XREF'd in. For simplicity, I've just got this stuff in the drawing here. But we can also grab additional drawings. And I've got a little button here where I can say include all open drawings. Now they don't need to be open. Label Genie will open them in the background if you choose those drawings and insert labels in them accordingly. But if you have them open, you can just grab them right here. And then we have layout control. Now I want to label everything on my project. So when you're doing that, you're just going to say label entire model space. But if there's certain layouts that you want to label, or you don't want to label outside of the viewports, you have all those controls here. Now moving on, we're going to grab some M text, but notice some of the label object types I've got in here. There's going to be a lot more as we're kind of buttoning them up, and I've got a build to show you guys. I'm adding them in here, but let's start with M text, and then we're going to put it on polylines, and notice all the different object types. Label Genie, in fact, is going to have over 100 labeling scenarios, meaning combinations of label types and an anchor object that they can be attached to where it makes sense. Obviously, you're not attaching a surface spot label to a cross section, but you get the idea. And we're going to grab the centroid of these polylines. And if I look in here, I've got filter controls on what polylines are going to be included in this, and I can filter this in many, many different ways. Again, this is a lot like Data Wizard if you're familiar with that. We try to make some of these interfaces real consistent so you guys can understand from one tool to the next what they look like. And I'm going to grab a layer called driveways. Now I can put asterisk on there so I can grab perhaps multiple layers that start with the word driveway, you name it, you can grab that. Now moving on to the formatting tab, what do I want to label here? I'm going to put in polyline area, and I'm going to put a piece of custom text after that. This is a project in imperial units and feet, so I'm going to put SF for square feet. But everything it works fine in metric projects. It's not unit specific. So square feet, and then we've got, I want to put a little description in there, but I want that to be on a new line, so I can add a new line component, then another piece of custom text. And we can call this "6-inch asphalt." That's what we're going to put in, okay? And then down here, this is M text again, so I've got a lot of formatting options. What's the display height? I've got a height of 0.1 because I'm using annotative text, in fact. But here's all those text styles I can choose from. Those are what exist in the drawing. And then the display width, M text has word wrapping on it if the width won't fit the entire text string. So depending on what size you put here, it'll wrap text automatically. Whereas if you put in a new line, that would be putting like a carriage return in the M text. We'll do 1.5 for a width. Capitalization options, the orientation. Do I want to orient this to the object, to the view, or to the world coordinate system? Stick with WCS. Everything is east-west on this project. And all these common controls on your M text object. Rotation, offsets, line space factor, okay. Do you want a background mask on there? Okay, so you can look back at all your settings, make sure you've got everything right. And we'll run through this stuff a number of times with a few different scenarios. Because the beauty of this is you can't always tell what you're gonna get, right? If you're talking about automating 500 labels at once across multiple drawings, I kind of need to be able to try it and then see how that looks and then run it again and then say, okay, that's my template standard. That's what I'm going to save right here, okay? And that's the beauty of Label Genie is it's not just adding, it's updating. So if we add this and we think, spacing's not right, we can run it again, get it kind of tweaked the way we want, and then save that labeling scenario. So I think I've got everything set right here. We're going to hit add labels. We've got all these drawings, and it's going to add M text with areas of the polylines, as well as some hard-coded text I put in there after the fact. So let's hit add, update labels. And here on this layout, we see all those areas came in. I look on the other layouts. Okay, now this is all in one drawing, but I've got multiple drawings. And the labels came in here as well, right? So think about some of your projects. Some of you guys do smaller sites, some of you much larger projects, whatever it is, the time it takes to put in just a piece of MText with an area on it. What does that take? I did it in about 5 minutes, but I explained everything along the way, right? You can do this stuff in a matter of seconds. Looking at the third drawing, here's the labels. Now maybe it came in and we decided, oh no, this text should be a different height, okay? So let's come back here and run this again. And I'll show you the update labels feature. Okay, so we're gonna use that same drawing set. The same label and anchor object settings, including the layer filter. And go to the formatting tab. Here's all that same stuff. This time we're going to do a height of 0.2, and the display width, we had 1.5. Let's bump it up to 2. And again, we'll leave the background mask off, but you can do that certainly. And then before I finish this, I'm going to save this out, and this will be my mtext on driveways. Okay, this is the template. It's a Label Genie settings template. I save out, okay, and now it actually becomes available in this dropdown. Now where this saves, it's an external file. It's a JSON file, in fact. And so you can edit it in Notepad if you want it. It's very easy, universal to work with. But in options right up here, there's a path where your labeling templates are stored, okay? That's what this dropdown is populated from. That's where it saves to. When you click the save button, some of the data formatting over here, some of you might be saying, well, I don't put just SF. I put, you know, a period in there, or I put commas in there, or you name it. Anything you can type in a piece of MText, we can put in here. So however you notate your stuff, we can do it here. All we're doing is automating the creation of all this MText. So maybe it's s.f. comma, right? That's the actual formatting we want. And I think I got everything set here. So we'll hit add update, and we should see these labels now update according to these new settings. The primary thing is the larger text size. So we'll click add update. And now we see all the labels update. If we zoom in here, I also see my s.f. and then the comma. Okay, so however you want to notate this stuff, that's all up to you. Now, how does this some of this stuff come in, right? And we put it at the centroid. Some of you might be going, well, Brian, that doesn't work, you know. Okay, there's nuances to your labeling. We're not going to pretend that Label Genie is going to solve 100% of every little thing you have to label 100% of the time. What we're going for is perhaps 85% of all your labeling to be automated, and then you come in there and write small little adjustments you might need to make. And a lot of that stuff is preference, right? You can come and do that. But I think what you guys are going to find is you're going to have a lot of control on getting these labels to come in exactly the way you want. So that larger text size, okay, and it updated, right? This is, you don't see the old text behind it. So we're actually keeping track of these text objects we create so that if you run it again with that same labeling scenario, the same layers, it's going to go and find those and update them accordingly. Let's put a few labels on the curb lines here. Come back to this drawing here. I just want to call out, you know, the curb type along here. Simple annotation. And there's no like great way to do this. There's no automated way to do this. And so I wanted to show you another example of just mtext on basic objects in here. So I'll run Label Genie again. We'll include all 3 drawings again. This time we'll do mtext on polylines, but the layer is going to be a layer with the word curb in it. Okay, and we're going to add a few more settings around here in terms of the target layer that the labels land on, and some output of how many polylines it's finding, and a few things like that. I just don't have them in this build here today. Again, it's a beta I'm showing you. We've got a lot of things coming together each day. And this time my label is quite a bit simpler. I just want to label, I'm just going to call out the curb type. I'm going to do a text height of 0.15, display width of let's put it at 3. We don't want any background mask, and I don't necessarily want it to land right on the polylines themselves. I want it to be offset a little bit below, so we'll do a vertical offset of -5. Okay. Let's come back to this tab here. I left this at centroid, but do we really want the centroid of these polylines, these curve lines? Is that what we want to attach to? It might be something else, like vertices. So let's set it to vertices and then come in here and look, well, where along my polylines can I call this out? Okay. Now, Label Genie works based on objects you have in your drawing. So that's what we read, that's what we can base this off of. So you guys can get really creative on how you do this, but we'll give you all the tools to choose where you attach this stuff to. I've got curve midpoints, I've got line midpoints, and all sorts of other things. Let's leave it at that. Maybe we'll add point of tangency. Okay. So again, I've got all these objects. I'm going to save this out again to a new file. This will be mtext on curb polylines. I had saved one previously. You can certainly overwrite these if you want to update one like that. And I'll hit add update labels, and we should see a lot of our mtext coming in calling out our curb types. Now again, it's based on the object types, right? Looking at the other drawings, we should see those labels appearing there as well. Some of the other stuff in the labeling, I was pulling in the area, and some of you might have been thinking like, well, square footage, maybe that's great for calling out asphalt areas, but what about if I want to call out acreage or square yardage or something like that? Will there be formulas in there? We don't have these in here right now in this build, but yes, we do plan to add formula controls, much like you would see in the native field, AutoCAD field dialog box, where you could run those conversions from one unit type to the next. Those will be in there, like I said, but they're not right in this build. So. Okay, so mtext call out on there. Let's label a few other things here. Let's put some M leaders out there. And I'm kind of focusing on some of these simpler objects, the AutoCAD objects, because in fact, these are the areas of such a pain point, right? There's almost no automation. What's the most automated Civil 3D label type that we have? It's probably pipe network labels, where you can choose an entire plan or profile view and add all those pipe and structure labels at once. That kind of functionality, we're bringing that to basically every other label type. That's what we're after here. And in fact, we're going to enhance the pipe network labeling as well, where you're going to be able to map based on your structure or pipe in your parts list. You're going to be able to choose the label style. So instead of every structure getting the same label style, you'll have a saved kind of mapping from your parts list to label style, such that when you execute on labeling all your plan or profile sheets, and again across multiple drawings like this, it'll take that mapping, and so you'll get a different label on your flared ends versus your sanitary manholes, you name it. So lots of control will be there. Let's label some of these blocks. I'm going to jump to model space on this. Kind of the same difference. We're going to label all of model space such that it shows up in these sheets. And let's label some of these blocks, call out some of these. And as we're going along with some of this stuff, the formatting might not look perfect. It's all based on the styles you have in your drawing, right? So Label Genie is just taking advantage of that. So we're going to grab those 3 drawings again. This time we're going to do M liters on blocks. Notice we've got a variety of other things here. A number of them I don't have turned on yet, but we're going to do blocks. And we're going to grab blocks on the seed tree and then deciduous layer. The anchor point is going to be just the centroid of those blocks. We're talking about these blocks over here. I just want a simple M liter call those out. Moving on here, what do I want my label to look like? And I want to address one of the questions that came in here during this. Can I call out the size of the trees or some kind of information in my block? If you're using blocks to color your trees and you have attributes in there, can I populate my label with them? Yes, I don't have it here to show you today, but that will be in there. So all the information in blocks, attributes, you name it, that stuff will be available in this data contents field where you can then build your label, be it M liters, M text, you name it, you can build it accordingly. I'm going to put a simple piece of text though, just to get the point across here. Not sure what this annotative M liter style looks like, but we'll go ahead and use that. And then with your M liters, you're going to want to usually put some kind of offset, right? The offset is like the grip point of the text component itself. You would want that offset from where the arrowhead anchors to the object. So I'm going to make a guess at, we'll say 25 units. So again, we've got the 3 drawings, we've got blocks on the layer C, tree, deciduous. We're going to call those out with M liters across all of these drawings. I think I've got everything set right. Let's hit add update labels. And if I zoom out a little bit, you can see everything call out. The style has the text size set entirely too large. And that's just a matter of your styles you use in here, right? So this text height was set really large. You change that, right? And then running it again. Let's execute that again, see if we can get those to update. Now this is kind of the process I wanted to show you guys a bit, right? It's this kind of iterative thing where you can build your custom labeling scenarios. I'm gonna try it out on your drawings, build them, then save them to a template as you see fit. Maybe I changed the wrong style. I think you guys get the idea though, right? Calling out all these blocks at once. Again, that was just hard-coded text. We will be able to read block attributes and all that kind of information. Basically, what's going to be available in there? Okay, everything that you can insert in a field, an AutoCAD field, that's an object type field like this. Okay, that information will be available to you. So if it's a block, we'll be able to grab these basic parameters. And actually, I misspoke a little bit. With blocks that have custom properties in them, like attributes, we'll be able to extract that as well, okay? So a lot of you are doing this. I'll go back to Data Wizard in the CIM Project Suite again. You're doing that with Data Wizard, reading block attributes. We'll be doing the same thing here. You're just writing it to mtext, mleaders, you name it, after the fact. Let's put a few line and curve labels on some things. I'm going to close out of these drawings. I'm going to grab a few other drawings, a scenario that if you guys have been tuned into any of our other webcasts where we've mentioned Label Genie, just one of them, in fact, we've done. I'd highlighted a scenario with line and curve labels. So let me go ahead and show you that here. And this is where we've got line and curve labels to apply to a whole subdivision, right? And this is quite literally thousands of labels where we want to call out bearings and distances on all of our lots, on all of our common areas, perhaps along right-of-ways, okay? And so let me show you how this works. And this is a Civil 3D label object now, right? So all the properties that are in those label styles, that just comes from the label style itself. So we've got 3 drawings, we've got multiple layouts in each. I've just got kind of a stripped down set here so you can get a appreciation for what Label Genie will do. So if we run and launch it again, we're going to grab all the current drawings. And this time we're going to do line and curve labels on our polylines again, but now we want, we don't need that filter in there. And we're going to grab segments. Now, since they're just polylines, it's just line and curves, right? But if we were labeling alignments, there would be the option for spirals. We go to the formatting tab, and we are going to have some options in here for you to be able to override Civil 3D label fields, okay? What do I mean by that? I've got a line style, right? Bearing and distance, bearing over distance, you name it. Those are the properties it's going to label. But I could be overriding that stuff such that it's still a line and curve label, but I've put in some of the source data from my anchor object. Much like running the edit label text command on a Civil 3D label, we would do that here, but we would do it automatically across all these labels at once. That's what that feature will be there. But for the most part, you're just going to use label styles as you have them set up, and you're going to add those to all those objects. So again, 3 drawings, line and curve labels. We can save this out, be my lot line labels, okay? And you can see, much like a list of styles, you'll build out this set of templates. And in fact, those of you who are kind of in a CAD manager role, you can build some of this stuff out for your users. And the setting right here, this template path I had mentioned earlier, right? That's what dictates what appears in the dropdown. You can control this path through network deployment. This is a simple XML file. It can be deployed with the CIM Project Suite such that you can control some of the options of how the tools behave for all of your users. We're building a lot of that into our applications so that you can bring some standardization to how these apps work for your teams. So I'm going to run add update labels on all of these. And then we're going to see line and curve labels show up across all 3 drawings, all the layouts and everyone, okay? And we put some intelligence into this too, right? So maybe some of you guys use the parcel objects, some of you don't. They're pretty clumsy to work with. And a lot of people, though, who do use them, it's because of some of the automated labeling you get. We've thought about some of that stuff. In fact, think about 2 lot lines for 2 adjacent closed polylines. I wouldn't want the label to appear twice, right? And so when Label Genie finds a segment, 2 segments, in fact, that are identical, it doesn't double up the labels on there, okay? Now, I just applied it to all lots, but right, perhaps along your right-of-way here, you'd have different labels. Okay, you just separate that stuff with layering like you would normally do anyway, and then you can have your lot labeling scenario, you can have your right-of-way labeling scenario, all these different things to control it. And the idea, again, is to automate about 85% of this, and then adjustments that you guys might make, right? Those are nuances that you know, you still have in place that you can do as you would need. Have a great day, have a safe week, and we will see you next time.